What are you saying, guys? It's been a little while. Right, this video is kind of a little pondering. A first world problem, basically. I haven't played any VR for over a month. And it's for one particular reason, but it's kind of weird. Like, I really want to, I stay up late in the evenings after my missus has gone to bed so that I can have alone time to play VR, because we all know you really need the alone time to play VR so you can really role play and get into it and stuff and not feel embarrassed that someone's sat there watching you looking like a twat playing VR. So yeah, I've been staying up most nights, giving myself the opportunity to play VR. I just never get around to it. I don't do it, and there's one particular reason, and it's not because of the heat. I've got a fan, I can open the window, it's fine, I can mitigate the heat, especially in the evening. It's not too bad. It's not the heat, it's the fact that Sony are teasing PSSR for PlayStation VR2. This is the AI upscaling technique, of course. And whilst I don't really care about that function on flat screen games, I think they already look ridiculously sharp and detailed and clear and everything's fine. I never have any problems with the performance of games on the TV. I never think, oh, this needs to be even higher resolution than it already is on my 4K telly. That's not an issue. But for VR, extra resolution makes a huge difference. And it also, of course, this type of upscaling technique wouldn't just improve your resolution, it would also means you could hit higher frame rates, increase draw distance, texture detail, lots of different graphical things could be increased by AI upscaling for VR potentially. And Sony have said that they are going to bring it to PSVR2. But now, of course, recently I've had this announcement that they're doing this huge sort of change, upscaling. They are increasing the performance of this upscaling technique next year. So 2026, we've got to look forward to an upgraded PSSR, which is going to be more in line with FSR4. The upscaling that's used on a PC, apparently it's better somehow. I don't know. Again, I've never really felt like I've seen or experienced the benefit of this this technique yet. Maybe I've seen it and not realised. I don't know. I'm on a PS5 Pro, so it's already got increased performance on games. I don't know. Anyway, but for VR, it has the potential to really increase performance, which means that your sense of immersion is increased. Because if everything's just more detailed, the graphics are better, there's less popping, there's more complex textures, higher frame rates, all of this stuff really helps immersion. So it's kind of got into my head that I want to wait until this PSSR stuff is sorted for PSVR2 next year, and then get into loads of games that I've sort of been holding off on. I've got a backlog of games that I've bought but not really played. Well, some of them not played at all. A lot of them I've played like half an hour just to see what they like, and then not spent a huge amount of time with them. And yeah, in the back of my mind, it's this feeling that like maybe I should wait until this PSSR stuff is sorted, and then I'll get to experience all those games for the first time at this higher performance level, assuming that all games will get patched to include this new upscaling technique. So it's kind of weird, kind of torturing myself unnecessarily, really, waiting and holding off on all these amazing games that I really want to play and enjoy, because I have this feeling that there's going to be better versions of them next year. And I don't really like playing through games a second time. I don't tend to do that. So I'd want to experience all these games for the first time as with the best performance possible. But I'm skeptical that this could even come to VR, this upscaling technique, because, and I saw someone explain this in a comment somewhere on Twitter, I can't find it, I wish I could, but essentially this person was making the point that, can AI upscaling really work for VR? Because you're generating two separate images, two separate renders one for each eye, obviously, to get that stereoscopic 3D effect. And if an AI upscaler is essentially on the fly guessing at what an image will look like once it's upscaled, is that I don't know if that's an accurate way to describe what's happening, but basically, how are they going to make the upscaling algorithm for each image match in a way that complements, so that there's no visual noise? So the difference in the upscaling algorithm that is applied to each image, which obviously have slightly different angles within the game world, how will they make sure that those images complement? And yeah, so you don't get like some kind of weird fuzzy visual noise artifacts of the fact that you're doing two separate calculations, two separate AI upscaling algorithms to increase the resolution of both these images. So that's the thing that's got me wondering, like, is this even going to work? Like, they have said previously it's going to be applied to PSVR2. That was some time ago. Obviously, it seems like their plans with this upscaling malarkey have been extended and delayed because of this opportunity they've got now to implement a better version of it. So again, nobody's going to see this better version of it until next year. And that's obviously, yeah. But then the question remains, are they going to be able to apply that to VR? I don't know. Anybody, if anybody knows anything about this sort of thing, let me know. If you think this could work for VR, I'm hoping that it does, because the other thing about it as well that could really be good if it can work for VR for the future of PSVR2 is, and this conversation's sort of been had before, but the PSVR2 has the potential to have really long legs, to last all the way through PlayStation 6, which means Sony doesn't have to pump millions and millions and millions into R&D for a new headset. They don't have to worry about people upgrading or migrating. You've already got that install base. You can just build upon that, and also the headset will get cheaper to produce over time, so you're potentially going to make it eventually a really affordable headset that has a huge library of games, because it will then potentially have stretched over 2 console generations, and it just makes it easy to solidify that PlayStation VR2 user base if you give it those long legs of also lasting through PS6. And I think that is the strategy they should go with. I mean, this headset is future-proofed. When it came out, and still 2.5 years later, it is still the only headset on the market that has that feature set of headset haptics, OLED screen with HDR, adaptive triggers, and all of the benefits that it has. Eye tracking, of course. So these features are future-proofed, to the point where you've got to think, especially eye tracking has got to become industry standard at some point, because it's kind of like a cheat code to increase performance in VR. And for standalone especially, you'd imagine that they would jump on the chance for any sort of way to increase performance on less powerful hardware. So eye tracking surely has got to become industry standard in future, so that all VR headsets can have this benefit of increased performance regardless of what platform you're on. I think that could see huge benefits, especially for standalone. There's another issue there though. Would eye tracking eat up the battery life? Would that be an issue for standalone? We don't know, but it's such a good piece of technology to have in there, and it just means that PlayStation 6 can continue to capitalize on increased performance. And yeah, the sky is the limit, really. The only thing that PlayStation VR2 would fall behind on, if it stayed the same headset through the next console generation after this, is the raw screen resolution. That's the only thing it would fall behind on, I think. Maybe field of view, but headsets don't seem to be getting much larger fields of view. I don't know if there's some kind of sort of realistic limit there based on the type of lenses we're currently using, but yeah, the only really thing I can see it falling behind on, if they do keep this headset through the next console generation, is the raw screen resolution. Other headsets already do and will get higher resolutions, but there are so many other factors to graphics that can make a game look amazing I don't think it'll matter too much, especially again if you're using these upscaling techniques and the power of the PS6 to increase every other factor of the visuals. So you're talking draw distance, texture, detail. Obviously, you can max out the resolution, HDR, OLED, frames per second. So the lighting. You know, there's a lot of things that can be increased with more performance through the headset and through upscaling to make these games look amazing. And I'm thinking of anyone who's got a PSVR 2, just imagine a game that has the resolution and frame rate of Red Matter 2, but the complex physics of, I don't know, a Resident Evil, or pick your favourite game that has complex physics that because of those complex physics has to sort of compromise on the resolution or graphics. For example, Undead Citadel has recently come out, and because they tried to force that game into work at 90 hertz native, and they have done that, it's took quite a big hit on texture detail, lighting, and other graphical features. So yeah, you just imagine everything maxed out, like no restrictions potentially on PS6 with upscaling. You know, every graphical feature can be absolutely maxed out, and the only thing again is you're falling behind on is the raw resolution, which I don't think will matter a huge amount, because you look at a game like Red Matter 2 and the resolution is fantastic. Everything looks so clear. I don't think you play that game and think, oh, you know, anyway, that's what I'm saying. So the sky's the limit, and I think this upscaling technique potentially could contribute to these long legs that PSVR 2 could have, and I think it's probably the wise decision. Like I said, they've future-proofed this headset, they've loaded it with features that other headsets still haven't caught up with, and I think that would just be a better way to maintain and grow the PSVR 2 user base, because then, yeah, you're not asking people to spend another God knows how many £100 on a brand new headset just to stay in the game. And that's obviously the opposite sort of approach to Meta, who necessarily have to iterate on their headsets fairly often, because of course it's standalone hardware. That hardware is underpowered compared to other headsets, and obviously the technology improves pretty rapidly there. So you're asking people to upgrade the Quest fairly often. And of course, we've seen intimations that the Meta have been a bit sort of disappointed with the number of people that have migrated from Quest 2 to Quest 3. It's not been a huge crossover like they might have wanted. I think Quest 2 is still, the most common headset out there. I mean, obviously it's been out longer, but yeah, that presents a problem, because a good percentage of the demographic of VR gamers, or people who have bought a headset rather, found themselves with a headset, usually gifted by parents to kids for Quest, a lot of the time, aren't necessarily going to care enough to keep up to speed with the latest thing. They've got a headset, they play it, whatever, that'll do for them, sort of thing. So yeah, it's a hard industry to get people into, to get them to try it in the first place and to stay in there. There's lots of barriers, there's lots of friction that can come, and lots of things that could potentially put people off. So I just think you make it as easy as possible for someone to get into and stay into a headset. What's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't matter. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. So basically, I've not been playing VR because I have this idea that all the games might look better next year. In the meantime, I've been playing Split Fiction, amazing game. I've been playing that with my missus. I said obviously 2-player local split screen game, fantastic. It's just everything in there. They just throw every type of gameplay you could think of in there. Really cool. But that's my video for today. All right, guys, tell me what you're playing in VR and what your thoughts are about any of these things. All right, bye bye.